If you've ever looked inside a PC and just felt, completely overwhelmed by that alphabet soup of parts, CPU, RAM, PSU, you're definitely not alone. It can feel almost intentionally confusing.
Oh, absolutely.
So today, we are going to tear that wall down. We're taking a really solid, comprehensive guide on PC architecture and giving you, well, the ultimate shortcut.
Our mission today is pretty simple. We want to get you up to speed and fast. We're going to zero in on the architecture, the function, and, the physical location of the parts that really matter.
In the big picture here, what we found is that it really just boils down to 7 core components.
That's it. If you get those 7, you pretty much have the framework to understand any computer system, whether it's a $500 office PC or a $5,000 gaming beast.
7. Okay, that's a manageable list. So let's just dive right in with the absolute foundation, because without this one piece, nothing else even works.
Right. And that has to be the motherboard. I always tell people to think of it as like the central nervous system of the computer.
It's a main highway for everything.
Exactly. It's this large circuit board that takes up most of the space inside the case. And its job isn't really to process anything itself. Its job is to connect everything else so they can all communicate.
Okay, so if the motherboard is the highway, we immediately need some fuel to get traffic moving. We need power.
We do. And that brings us to the power supply unit, or the PSU.
The unsung hero of so many builds, the thing people forget about until the machine just won't turn on.
It is so vital.
Oh.
And its main function is basically conversion. It takes that rough AC current coming out of your wall socket,
Okay.
and it converts it into the very precise low-voltage DC power that all those sensitive internal parts actually need to run.
And you'll find that, where usually, tucked away somewhere.
Yeah, it's almost always mounted in the bottom or the top rear of the case.
Yeah.
But, the source material brought up a really good point about them that goes beyond just location.
The efficiency ratings. Bronze, gold, titanium. Why should anyone actually care about that?
That's where the real nuance is. Those ratings, ADPLUS, bronze, gold, and so on, they tell you how efficiently that unit converts power. A gold-rated PSU wastes way less energy as heat than a bronze one.
And less heat is always a good thing inside a PC case.
It's a huge deal. It's not just about saving a few cents on your electricity bill. Less wasted energy means less heat being dumped inside your case, which means your other parts run cooler and last longer. It's a huge, if indirect, performance factor.
Right. Okay, efficiency secured. Now let's get to the genius of the machine, the component that does all the actual thinking.
The central processing unit, the CPU.
Or, as everyone calls it, the brain.
It's definitively the brain. This is where all the processing happens. Every instruction, every calculation, everything needed to run your operating system or an application, it all goes through the CPU.
And it has a very specific home, right?
Oh yeah, a very special one. It gets installed in the CPU socket, which is usually right around the center top of the motherboard.
It's interesting. The source guide suggested that the CPU's role, while it's still central, has kind of shifted. It used to be all about raw speed, but now you hear so much about cores and threads. What's the takeaway there for the listener?
The big takeaway is multitasking. A high core count means your CPU is fantastic at juggling lots of complex things at once. Think running a game while streaming, while also encoding video.
I see.
But for most people, for just standard use, the speed you actually feel often comes down to other things, which actually leads us perfectly to the next bit. The brain needs a notepad.
Exactly. The CPU is doing the thinking, but it needs a super fast place to keep its active notes. And that's the key difference between a computer's short-term memory and its long-term memory. Let's start with short-term. Let's talk about RAM.
RAM, random access memory. And the key thing to know is that it's completely volatile.
Meaning if the power goes out.
It's gone. Everything in it vanishes.
Yeah.
It only holds the data your computer is actively using right now. Your open browser tabs, the level of the game you're in, the document you're typing.
And having more of it means you can do more of those things at once without the system slowing down to a crawl.
Precisely. It's why having 50 browser tabs open can grind a system to a halt. You're not out of CPU power, you're out of RAM. You're out of active workspace.
Physically, what are we looking for inside the case?
RAM is probably one of the easiest things to spot. You're looking for these tall, thin sticks that snap into dedicated slots, usually in a little group right next to the CPU socket.
And that contrasts completely with storage. The machine's permanent long-term memory. This is where your stuff lives.
Exactly. Storage, whether it's an old hard disk drive, an HDD, or a modern solid-state drive, and the SSD is non-volatile. This is where your operating system, your apps, your photos, all your files are stored permanently.
And the physical change here has just been Well, it's been incredible to watch.
Oh, it really has. You still have the older, kind of clunky 2.5 or 3.5-inch drives,
Huh.
the ones with the spinning platters. They go into these dedicated drive bays, often hidden away.
But the real revolution has been the M2 SSDs.
A total game changer. They look completely different.
They really do.
They're these tiny flat chips, about the size of a stick of gum, and they install directly onto special slots right on the motherboard itself.
And the speed difference is not subtle.
Not at all. Going from an old spinning hard drive to a modern M.2 drive can change your boot time from a minute or more to just a few seconds. It is probably the single most noticeable upgrade a person can make.
Amazing. Okay, let's move into more specialized processing. Sometimes the CPU, the main brain, needs help with really, really heavy visual tasks.
Right, like rendering, video, and especially gaming. And that is the domain of the graphics processing unit, the GPU.
The video card?
The video card, yeah. Its whole purpose is to render images, videos, and those complex 3D game worlds, taking that massive workload off the CPU.
Now, here's a crucial point the source material made. Is the GPU actually a required component for every single PC?
It is not.
Yeah.
And that's a really important distinction to make, especially for budgeting. If you are building a PC for gaming or for serious video editing or 3D modeling, then yes, a dedicated GPU is absolutely non-negotiable.
But for just browsing the web and doing spreadsheets?
For basic tasks, no. Many modern CPUs have graphics processing built right into the chip that's more than powerful enough. You can skip the big expensive card entirely.
That's a huge piece of strategic knowledge. But for those who do need one, where does this often enormous card actually go?
The GPU is usually the biggest, heaviest thing in the case. It needs a lot of power and a lot of connection bandwidth, so it plugs into the longest, most reinforced slot on the motherboard.
And that's called the
PCIe by 16 slot. It's a long horizontal slot, usually near the bottom.
Okay, so all of this processing, this power draw, it creates a ton of heat.
A tremendous amount of heat.
And if we ignore that heat, the system either slows itself down to protect itself or, it just fries. So that brings us to our seventh required component, cooling.
Cooling is absolutely 100% a necessity. It's just thermal management. And we really rely on two main things. First, you have the CPU cooler.
The thing sitting right on top of the brain.
Right on top of the CPU chip itself, pulling that intense, concentrated heat away immediately. And you have choices there.
Right, you've got the big air coolers, these massive blocks of metal fins and fans.
Yep, they're simple and super reliable. But for the most powerful CPUs, a lot of people are turning to all-in-one liquid coolers, AIOs.
And they use water?
They use a liquid coolant in a closed loop. They have a water block on the CPU, pumps, and a radiator to move the heat more efficiently, often right out of the case.
And then you have the case itself and the fans that move air through the whole system.
And there's a real science to that airflow. It's not random.
The fans have specific jobs.
They do. The fans at the front of the case are usually intake fans, pulling cool air in, and the fans at the back or the top are exhaust fans, pushing all the hot air that's built up out.
A constant, steady loop.
You need that balanced airflow to keep everything healthy, especially when you have a powerful CPU and GPU running at full tilt.
That really brings the whole physical layout together, doesn't it? Those 7 required pieces, all housed and organized inside the case.
The case is basically the skeleton. It directs that airflow and gives you all the mounting points, and the design is pretty standardized now.
Yeah, you see that typical layout where the right side panel is solid. That's for hiding the cable mess.
All the wires from the PSU, yeah.
And then the left side panel is usually that big glass window so you can see all your nice components.
It's all about maximizing that airflow and, minimizing the visual clutter.
So once those 7 core parts are in and running, you get into the fun stuff, the optional world.
This is where the personalization really happens. Things you add to improve performance, convenience, or just, the looks.
Like we mentioned, you can upgrade from the basic CPU cooler to a bigger, better one for more stability.
For sure. And another one is a dedicated sound card. Now, most motherboards have pretty good audio built in these days.
But if you're a serious audiophile,
a separate card can give you much cleaner, crisper sound because it's isolated from all the electrical noise on the motherboard.
there are also super specialized tools like a capture card.
Yeah, that's really for a specific niche. Content creators, streamers. It lets you record gameplay from an external source, like a game console, and process it on your PC.
And of course, connectivity. Sometimes you need a dedicated Wi-Fi card or Ethernet card for faster network speeds.
And then, let's be honest, you have the aesthetics.
RGB everything.
RGB lighting, extra case fans just because they look cool. Purely visual upgrades. And we should probably mention the nearly extinct optical drive for anyone who still uses discs.
A rare sight these days. Okay, so we've deconstructed the entire PC down to its core. Let's synthesize the biggest takeaways for everyone listening.
I think there are two main ones. First, just understanding those 7 required parts: CPU, RAM, storage, motherboard, PSU, cooling, and the GPU, with that important caveat.
That it's only required for graphics-heavy tasks.
Right. Getting those 7 is the foundation. They're what make the machine actually function.
And the second takeaway.
The motherboard is the undisputed king. It is the central hub. If you're building, upgrading, troubleshooting, everything starts and ends with the motherboard because every single component plugs into it and relies on it.
So, connecting all that back to the real world, here's a final thought to mull over based on what we've seen.
Go on.
Since the motherboard connects everything and the case has to physically hold everything,
I see where you're going with this.
the ultimate physical constraint on your PC, the real limit on its future, isn't just the speed of your parts today. It's the size and layout of your motherboard and your case.
That's a fantastic point. The size of your motherboard, whether it's a big ATX or a tiny mini ITX, dictates how many RAM slots you have, how many drives you can connect.
And the physical size of your case determines if you can even fit that giant new graphics card that just came out or the radiator for a liquid cooler.
Exactly. So the thing to really think about is that physical footprint. The motherboard and the case. They dictate the limits of every single upgrade you can ever possibly make. That's the real blueprint of your PC's future.